As a full-service creative studio, how do you identify team members that you can trust and can execute your vision properly?
I think that with any company, it is so important at the very beginning to define your culture. And your culture is essentially a combination of what you stand for and also don't, right? And so with all the companies that I've created and been involved in and with, I've always essentially made a point to almost exclusively hire artists. And by artists, what I mean is people that have some form of creative expression outside of their immediate line of work. It can mean being a musician, it can mean being a painter, it can mean being a sculptor or a poet. But ultimately, the core reason behind this is because for the work that I do and have always done, it's been really important to be non-algorithmic. And the prevailing wisdom within technology has been data-driven decisions across the stack, which is good and has its place. But I've always been of the school in the approach that a Michael Jackson or a Quincy Jones didn't split test Thriller. There's a sense of intuition, of sensibility, of taste that is required to be an artist and to express yourself in that way. That manifests itself in products, in campaigns, and in teamwork and collaboration. Having that as an underlying common ground really sorts through a lot of potential issues.
As a Gen Z founder, were you ever faced with an experience where your experience was questioned? And how did you deal with that situation?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I started my first company at the age of 19. We raised our first round of funding when I was 21 years old, and it was over 1.5 million pounds in funding. That was the first time round. So I was 21, 22, and we had a lot of capital. And we had investors and board members that, naturally would question the experience of a 20-year-old, 21, 22-year-old, right? And so the approach that I had to that was essentially understanding that the role of any creative founder is to be the first of every role, to figure it out, model it, teach people, and then replace yourself. That is the key element, to find people who are better than you at doing that specific thing. Give them the boundaries, give them motivation, give them tools and galvanize them, and then step out of the way and let them do their magic. And then what you essentially do is help coordinate, conduct, and inspire your team to move to the next level. That's been the best approach. Trying to assume that you can figure it all out yourself or do it all yourself is a one-way ticket to losing all your hair at a very young age.
Definitely. I think training your team and delegating your work is really important when it comes to team building.
For sure.
How many decisions do you make strategically and how many do you make based off just gut instinct?
I think that it's important to, at the beginning, be very strategic. When you're architecting the blueprint for your project, you think through everything. You think through the business plan, you think through the market adoption, the go-to-market, the product range, etc. In that moment, it's important to be incredibly analytical and strategic and thoughtful. Business, creating things is a game of speed. It's a game of pace. It's a game of iteration. And as a result, speed and intuition are so necessary in the individual moments. And so once the broad scaffolding and architecture has been carefully thought through, it's really important for a 3-month period, for example, to be as intuitive as possible and then create a checkpoint and be strategic. Look at the lay of the land, look at what you've got around you, look at what's going on, think, strategize again, and then boom, intuition again. So it's a process of intuition, strategy, review, intuit.
It's like a cycle where you have to trust your instinct after you've thought everything through.
Exactly.
When did you first feel the weight of responsibility as a founder? Not the excitement, but the cost of it.
Yeah, I mean, the first time I felt the weight of responsibility as a founder was when I was responsible for people's paychecks. Yeah, we reached the point with my music company where we had over 20 employees. And the end of every month, it is, you don't make the right decisions, then your staff are going to have a very bad end of the month, or they're not going to really enjoy working with you. It's going to be a bad culture, all of these kind of elements. That's when I felt the weight of the responsibility, but also it was probably one of the environments in which I learned the fastest as well. You're essentially going through challenges at a rate of knots where you understand that building a company is more than just a product. It is a system of people that create products. in perpetuity, right? I would say that, pressure is a privilege. I encourage people to take on as much pressure as possible and help them grow as fast as possible.